It's a riddle. What's the Elvish word for good podcast?
A film slate of mind. Soon, master listener, you will enjoy the fabled knowledge of the Film Slate of Mind crew. Roaring conversations, malt anecdotes, ripe advice off the bone. This, my friend, is the home of four friends and their experience in the film industry. And they call it a podcast. A podcast.
This is not a podcast. It's a mess.
Speed.
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 Welcome to a Film Slate of Mind. I am your host, the human boompole, Toby Cook, joined as ever by the man who can hold a squat for 48 safety takes, Aaron Massey.
Where'd that intro come from?
You held a squat for like pretty much the entirety of the bathroom scene. I kept looking at the scene like, is he still going? He is. That's thighs of iron.
Yeah, hello. That was a great intro.
Yeah, that's what we do, my friend. That's what we do. Okay, so moving swiftly on. And the man who spends half the year working and the other half in India playing Ludo, Jack Thompson.
That is more true.
Yeah.
That's quite accurate. Hello. How's it going?
Hey. Good, mate. How are you?
You know, trying to make the best out of a bad situation with this stormy, wet day down in South Devon.
There we go, weather forecast. We can now date this episode by what the weather was doing in Devon.
Yeah.
Devon weather forecast.
The Devon
Jack
weather
Thompson.
forecast.
Jack Thompson.
And finally, Jack and Aaron, I have some advice for you. Beware the quiet man, for while others speak, he watches, and while others act, he plans, and when they finally rest, he strikes. Please welcome with me, Vice President of Podcast, Dale Cheney.
Always in the shadows.
Dale Cheney. Nice.
Dale Cheney, there we go.
Impressive.
So, that is our. We've now had two intros to this episode. I should probably explain what we're actually doing here. This is a Film Slate of Mind, the film podcast from four former master's students now making our way in the industry. We're going to try and give you the best advice, the best stories, have a general discussion about film, and try and help and entertain you for the next half hour. And in doing that, I feel we should explain why you should be listening to us. So, I was about to say group therapy. It's not group therapy. It's team building. That's when you do it. Let's go around the group and say who we are. Aaron, please take it away.
So I'm a director filmmaker with somewhat about nine or 8 years experience making my own short films and slowly working up to a bigger crew, bigger budget productions, and currently working as a freelance videographer.
Beautiful. Jack, what do you got?
So I'm a freelance location assistant at the moment, and I've had about 3 years of experience so far. But ultimately, I'm a budding producer / first AD. So see what happens.
Nice. Lots of different fingers in pies, plates in the air.
Yeah, very much so.
And
Very
another
much so.
analogy beginning with P.
Versatility.
Yeah. That doesn't begin with P.
No, but that was the word I was thinking of before you said P.
And it's going to be a lot of that, ladies and gentlemen. Dale, Vice President Dale Cheney, what brings you to this podcast?
Well. So I'd like to call myself a writer, but I don't do enough of that to even warrant description. So spent 2 to 3 years in production, and now I'm kind of following Jack's footsteps in location. And that's about all there is to it. Really.
Like a loyal dog.
Nothing but.
Like a loyal dog.
Well, I mean, it is, it's a good way of doing it. Make some contacts and then just, doors shall open for you and you can go in. And it helps, especially if they're friends, because you can say, talk me up. Avoid all the things I actually do. Tell them the things I don't. And finally, we reach me. I'm a sound op. Not so much anymore, as I have left the film industry behind, but maybe I'll get dragged back in. Who knows? Will it be like The Godfather? Will I keep trying to get out, but they keep pulling me back in? We don't know. But I have worked in sound. I was a runner in a sound post-production house in London, and then I was a transfer engineer. And around that, I've also done 3 years of freelancing on set and from my bedroom as well, because that's the beauty of sound mixing. And as we all know, freelance editing, you can do it from your bed, and you just say, I'm just going to use my home studio.
Yeah.
So, now that we all know who we are, I think we should start at the beginning of our particular quadrangle friendship and say how we all met. And when we met, we were all doing a master's together at university. But the first project we actually ended up all working on together, cumulatively, was right at the end of the year, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So we'd worked on different projects, as, me and Jack had worked on, what did we work on, Jack?
Good question. I'm going to have to wrap my brain here. With my lack of memory.
Like a rusty computer.
Like a rusty computer. So it wasn't the Dartmoor doc.
No, because I'd bailed by that point. I didn't want to spend a week in Devon. No.
Get on, boy. True Cornish boy. Even though you're not Cornish.
Says you with Devon origins.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's like, grew up most of the time in
Shooting
Devon.
yourself in the foot. Yeah.
I can never go back.
I'm not quite sure. There was the 100-hour film challenge, which we also bailed on.
This is not good.
Memories.
This is not a good start, but we persist. We persevere.
Yeah, we did the freshers thingy when we went to that Wareham Out place and interviewed people, and you decided
that was at Raise the Roof.
Yeah,
that was at Raise the Roof in Penryn. I think that was like a student ambassador meeting or mentor meeting, and me and you turn up and just shoot some quick
students. Yeah,
and talking head stuff by the ball pit.
I remember the moment when you said, right, we're setting up here, and I kind of pointed up like to the left, and there's a speaker pointing directly down, and then to the right, and there was a speaker pointing directly down, and I was like, this is not very conducive to good sound, Jack. And you went, yeah, but the lighting's perfect. That was it. That was the end of that discussion. But yeah, so then so you and me worked on those sort of things. Dale, we did the 100-hour challenge together, and Aaron, I believe you and I did our first project together.
Yeah, Block.
Yeah, Block, which we did with our good friend Ben. Hopefully we can get him onto the podcast.
Yeah.
So we did multiple projects apart, and then we got to the final term, and we got given the opportunity, let's say, to do a short film. So Aaron,
Yes.
I will hand over to you, as it was your idea. You directed, you wrote Esther, the eponymous film. How did you get the idea?
Well, it basically started because I went out for a few drinks and met some people that I didn't particularly like, and I felt like I was being someone who I wasn't. And that's when it came to me. I was like, I'd like to have a film where the main character has multiple personalities. And that's when I wanted to bring in a love interest for the character and ultimately see their journey through dealing with this character's multiple personalities. And I think, as a whole, I applied to do the master's degree, and then within about 2 years, I got the final film finished. So from start to finish, it was about 2.5 years. Sorry.
Wow. So how long had the idea existed before you did the masters?
It was about 6 months, I think. It initially just started off as like a sentence being like, multiple personalities, and then from there, I just thought, I want to go back into education. Funnily enough, so I thought I'd apply for a master's degree purely to make this film, and then I just carried on writing it from there. And then 2.5 years later, the film was finished.
It's interesting. It just states from that just a line, and was it in a notebook or just a post-it or?
Yeah, it was
on a mirror.
In a mirror. It was in a notebook because I tend to carry quite a lot of notebooks around with me. I've got quite a few next to me, and I also because I don't carry notebooks around with me all the time. I try and just make quick notes on my phone because everyone has a phone, so it's quite easy to just make a quick note. But I always try and have a physical version of my ideas.
So that you can look at it again later and develop it, or go, oh no, that's
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the thing though, is like I've Dale's probably the same because he's a script writer, but I've got multiple ideas. Some are really bad and some may be really good, but you kind of sometimes mash them together and you might have something really good at the end of it. But with Esther, it just kind of sparked from having a few drinks and being someone that I didn't really want to be. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I want to get more into kind of Esther itself and how we all got involved in the process of that. And mostly in this episode, I just want to cover the production. We can do then post-production going forward. But as we're on the subject of talking about ideas, because I do the same thing as you, I write stuff down on my phone and then I'll note it out later. I don't write as many scripts or film ideas as the rest of you, but this is purely on the music side. If I think of lyrics or, an idea, chorus, I'll do like a little voice memo. But I just want to know, like Jack and Dale, are you similar? Are you notebooks? Are you voice memos? Are you smoke signals? Or
smoke signals.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Jack's got another idea again.
See a puff of smoke in Devon.
No,
Yeah.
I'm definitely more of a notebook guy.
Hmm.
And I find it easier to digest writing stuff down, like on a relatively small notebook, nothing too big, so that you can fit it in your pocket without like weighing yourself down too much. And then I tend to write it up when I get back home, and that's normally it. And then I'll empty like the notes pages on my phone after I've typed up. It's kind of I transfer it a lot. It's kind of notes to phone to laptop. That's normally the idea process.
And
That's what works, yeah.
Does that kind of reinforce it for you, like having the initial idea and then rewriting it up again and then rewriting it again? Does that really kind of cement it down, or is that just every idea you do that for?
No, you're probably right, actually. It does, yeah, I'd say it does hone down the idea more as I basically am writing up the same notes again. Whilst I'm repeating those notes, it's drumming into my system even more. So, yeah, so it's digesting quicker. But I wouldn't say that I write up all my notes repetitively every time, because there's only so much time in the day and I could spend an hour just repeating notes. It's like revision of my own ideas.
I've written a 600-page book, guys. It's just one-line notes.
Yeah.
And Dale, because you and Aaron, I'd say, no disrespect here, Jack, but I'd say you and Aaron are probably the most script writey out of us four. So are you on the same sort of line, Dale, of notebooks, or are you something completely left field? I'm trying to find anything other than notebooks, really, and see if we've got anything of that. But
yeah, I mean, generally speaking, obviously, I tend to have a cheaper paper pad you can get from most stationery stores for like just the kind of just rough ideas. Generally, as they get further, if I don't just discard them after a day, then they might develop further and they might inherit themselves or deserve a specialised notebook for them to fully develop. But often, I've seen things or heard things or been inspired by things, and you might take a recording on a phone, a little bit like Alan Partridge, admittedly, because when you listen back to them, they're just not feasible. But yeah, it's generally a notebook, but often you just have to just say things. I mean, as of late, I've been kind of had some weird lucid dreaming, and then I've kept a notebook by my bed, and you're just like, you wake up, write it down, think that's amazing. I'll wake up in the morning, think it's going to be this new thing. You read it in the morning over a coffee, and you don't know what you were thinking about. You certainly don't remember it, but it's in your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that brings me on to my next point, because I've had ideas that I've then found again months later and kind of gone, that's a bit weird. But they seem to they stick with me for years. So I've wanted to do this. I brought it up with you guys before, this kind of idea of dystopian future, because it always is, because that's where we're headed in reality at the moment, it seems.
Yeah.
It's a positive podcast, folks.
Yeah.
It's a dystopian future where instead of orphans and people who lost their family, they are given to new families, and their memories are all wiped, and they're implanted with memories, so they think they're the new family's child. Now, this idea has been going around now for about 4 years, and I wrote it mostly at 5 a.m, so it's all a bit intense, and it's all a bit kind of, there's a lot of rave music going on, and I seem to have only focused on the music, so none of the character emotions, like Jeffrey was feeling this right now. It's just like a banging beat is playing. Like
a banging beat. I love that. If you were like a director, you just turn up to the set and just be like, a banging beat's playing. Don't care about the characters.
Have you not seen
Doesn't matter. Let's go.
Have you not seen my notes on some sound scripts where I'm like banging beat needed here, or that like dirty drop needed here, or something?
Did you do that sort of thing for Esther?
I might have done on my. I might not have shown you it. I think I did it on my own one because I was like, in order to remember stuff, sometimes I have to be a bit silly, like, and write it in a kind of over the top way. So it's like, oh yeah, I know what I mean there, rather than just go, what am I on about? You know, like if I say trancey music, that could mean anything. But if I'm saying like a filthy beat, you know, then I'm like, oh, it's got to be a really filthy song, you know?
Yeah.
I just can't imagine during the Kickstarter editing, you just sent him a load of notes saying, needs filthy drop at 35 seconds.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's how we all have ideas. So we're all notebook fans. At the end of this episode, we will be providing you with the details of our various social media and email accounts. Please send it. If you've got any weird ways you record ideas, or ways you've written down scripts, or anything, you know, bit out of the ordinary, it'd be nice to know that, and also get some other ideas. And don't worry, we will not make fun of them. Well, I might, but not on air. But yeah, let's move on from that to back to Esther, the master's film, the crowning achievement of our time at university, and how we all got involved. So I believe, I may be wrong, but I believe, Jack, you were next to come on board with Aaron and start working as a producer.
Yeah, you are right. It was never the intention. When that module started, not necessarily working with Aaron, but more so being a producer.
Yeah. Sorry, it's like you just wandered in by accident.
Save myself. I need to quickly clear that up early doors before I proceed. No, it was all for working with Aaron on something, because like we all became good mates throughout the MA, and we never worked on anything together. So I was definitely open to that. And I think you just posed the idea of me doing some producing, and then I didn't really think too much of it. I was more thinking of taking the role as DOP. And I think you already had Lucy in mind a little bit for that.
I think I don't exactly know how everyone else got their roles. Like, I think Lucy did express to me that she wanted to do camera work for something, and then I think it just, again, with every role, I think it just organically happened. And I know you didn't particularly want to be a producer, but like we both wanted to work together on something, so you kind of fell into that role, be it you wanted to do it or not. But I think you really took to that role very well. But yeah, I think with regards to everyone bar a few people, it all just kind of organically happened. And like, again, Toby, you were like, I want to work with you on this, so I was like, just jump on board.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, this is the first, you know, we could even make this the first Jack top tip of the series. Even though it's me saying the tip and we all agree with the tip. So, but I'm going to give it to you, Jack.
Jack's top tip.
I'll take the credit.
Jack's top tips. Welcome to Jack's top tips. Is if somebody comes along with you in the film industry and says, do you want to do this on this production? Just give it, unless it's something you really don't want to do. Like if, you know, Aaron, if you said to me, do you want to be a tree in the background of every shot? I'm not going to be like, yes, this is my moment. You know, but like if somebody says to you, I reckon you could be a producer. Do you want to be a producer? And you go, yeah, that's a good idea. Go for it. Because I mean, look, Jack, this has kind of basically set you on the course at the moment, where you've got another string to your bow. You've got location work out of it. You've got, you know, producer-like experience.
I think you've got to have a balance between, you should take every opportunity that comes your way, and just take on the risk. And like it's a bit daunting, and there'll be sometimes you'll get offered jobs or an opportunity where you know that you don't understand the whole role fully, but just say yes and learn how to do it later, and you'll learn on the job, and that is the best, and for me, the only way to improve, and it just snowballs. And with a bit of luck, meeting the right people, you don't have too much control of where your career goes in this industry. And unfortunately, until your networking builds up tenfold as you get more experience, you can kind of you can cherry pick which job or which direction you want to go in, whether it be drama, whether it be comedy, whether it be like non-factual. It could be anything. You can kind of dictate where you want to go. But at the beginning, just take everything.
That's double swear jar, guys. Double swear. Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. Like the thing is as well is that, you know, there's such a big labour pool because it's, you know, dream industry's working. There's so many people that want to do it. So as soon as you get that tiny moment of somebody cracking your door and just going, "Hey, do you want to come in?" You just got to stick your head through.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Straight away. Like, you know, I'm in.
Yeah.
What's the rest of you? Oh, sorry, John. Yeah, you just got to absolutely go for it. So yeah, absolutely agree with that. You just, any sort of opportunity comes along, just go for it. Because I originally wanted to be a video editor, and then somebody said, yeah, I wanted to be a video editor when we started the course, and then our lecturer said, "Do you reckon you could try sound on this?" Because I'd mentioned I had a radio show, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll give it a go." And then I got a career for 3 years and ended up going to Pinewood and everything. And it's just like, okay, thank God I said I'll give it a go, and not, no, I'm a video editor.
But during our time at Falmouth, didn't you take on an Avid video editing course?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Me and you did that.
You did, didn't you?
Did you?
Oh
do
yeah,
that,
that was
Jack?
that.
I don't think I did. No.
Yeah.
That was I know the first one, the basics, Avid basics, fine. Avid advanced, no, absolutely not. What do you want me to do? How do I do this? You want me to make a 3D what? But yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so as you alluded to earlier, I then followed you around for a bit, like, let me do sound. And you gave me a script, and I got to sit and make notes such as bang and drop needed here. Which this is a sound moment for all the soundies listening. If you ever get a chance to get in at the beginning of a project and you get given a script, it's the best thing you can do for your eventual mix, because you can write all your ideas out, and then when you get into the mix, you could try them all out, and any that don't work, you could sack them off, but it may develop new ideas. But as long as you've got this idea of where you want to go with it, you have way more time than you think, because generally sound gets about 2 days if you're lucky. You know, you get promised about a month, and then you end up with 2 days. That's just the nature of sound within the industry. So if you could get ahead of that and come up with a load of ideas first, I'd really recommend it to all my Saudi brethren who are listening.
But also,
That's a good
on that point as well, is like, I think me and you, Toby, had quite a good relationship during production, because I basically just let you do what you wanted to do, and whenever you went too far, I'd kind of rein you in, or whenever you wanted to try something, I'd let you do that. And I think that's the role of a director, is letting the creative people sort of do their job essentially, and not micromanage the production. And sometimes you might have done something that I didn't even think about doing in the actual film, and then you've just whacked out a massive sound that I didn't think about, and I'm like, yeah, banging, keep that in.
Well, one of my favourite moments was when I came and talked to you, and you went, maybe give it a bit more on this scene. I think it was the diary scene, where it's a kind of a flashback almost, but not a flashback, it's a narration over the top. And it's during the main character's more kind of his mental breakdown, I think, like it's starting to really start to hit him. And I showed you something, you said, can you make it more? And I went, oh. I disappeared for an afternoon, and I created something that was utter madness, and you came back in and went, okay, let's tone this down, but I'm glad you went all the way there.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's like, because I remember we watched the final film in the little cinema at the uni, and you were like really proud, because you were like, I just want to make it really disturbing for audiences. And since the release, I've had people messaging me saying, this is really disturbing to watch. And I was like, what makes it disturbing? And they're like, it's the sound, like I can't take it. And I was like, that's the point of it, because you're kind of in this character's head, and he's kind of having a tough time, so the audience should have a tough time watching that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with the sound was when you said it has to be uncomfortable, I was like, okay, brilliant, that'll be fun. And I remember there was a thing I'd seen about Hans Zimmer creates these things called shepherd tones for music. So the music never reaches a climax; it just keeps getting worse. And you basically do that by you have a normal tone, then you have an octave higher and an octave lower, and one fades in and one fades out. But you keep doing this, so it never reaches a crescendo. And I thought, well, why don't I just do that with a signal generator?
Exactly.
So all that high pitched stuff that goes on never actually reaches a point. And I mean, it's great to hear what you're saying now. That makes me feel great. But I'd always like to say to those people, like, you think it's bad for you watching it once. I don't know how I felt. I had to mix it for a week.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I remember people used to come in and they'd just be like, "Are you all right?" And I was just like, I'm actually losing it now. Like, is there actually a high pitched noise, or am I just like, is my brain broken?
But,
You know?
but I think as well, like, I think during that sort of 8 or 9 days of shooting, production, and even post production was like some of the toughest weeks we've probably gone through, because we had to cram so much in during production, and then post production there was so many things that we had to factor in. But I don't know if there's anything Jack wanted to talk about during production, or.
I think there's just taking on the role of producer, you're kind of organising the crew and making sure everyone knows what they're doing and they're going in the right direction before they hit set and before like the first scene is called up. And there's so many little problems which can come out of nowhere. Say someone pulls out for a couple of days and you need to find someone to fill in, and they need to be up to speed with the equipment, and then it's all the logistics of it as well. But it can go from that to feeding the crew. So one of my I wouldn't say favourite highlights, but memorable highlights was, so I wasn't gonna hire a caterer for the week and a half of shooting because our budget wasn't that large as it was. So I got 2 massive tubs of Tupperware, and I filled them up with pesto, red and green pesto pasta in separate pots. So it's like 2 kilos of pasta brought into set in the boot of my car.
Every
It
day.
was the most bog standard. You would expect to see that in a help yourself salad at Harvesters.
Well, we
And
won't.
just turning up.
Sorry. We won't be getting a sponsorship from Harvesters anytime soon, now, will we?
Apologies to get your hopes up, guys. Sorry. Anyway, it filled the holes of the crew, and everyone was no longer hungry, so that was great. But in future, it would be great to have someone else, preparing the food or preparing the drink, because I'd spend like a couple hours after a shoot day. We'd spend 8-9 hours shooting and whatever. We get home, once everyone's back home, you're checking the batteries and the SD cards in the evening. Oh, it's time to cook again.
Yeah, brilliant.
And it's just not just for me, it's for 15 people.
Yeah.
And it just gets so tedious.
I mean,
So-
I remember the tea you made when you told me. Well, you confessed to me later in the day, I've never made tea in a thermos before, and I was like, "Oh, what have you done?" You're like, "Well, I got a thermos and I put 6 tea bags in," and I went, "Oh, and you've taken them out yet?" And he went, "No." So they'd just been stewing in the tea in the thermos for 12 hours.
I think I went to Mountain Warehouse or Wilco's or something like that, and I bought 2 like massive litre canteens, and I filled them up with tea. But the problem is I put 5 or 6 tea bags in there, and I just let it brew for a while before handing it to Toby.
It was jet black.
In between a scene, or in between shots of a scene, we were shooting out in Falmouth exterior. I think it was the bench scene.
No, it was
No?
I was in a house because I remember
Yeah.
I'd passed out just beforehand in the garden,
Yeah.
and you went, "Oh, here, have a cup of tea," and then I was wired for about 2 years. Like,
Yeah.
I just thought our main soundie needed a bit of a boost, so
too much of a boost.
I did what needed to be done. Yeah.
Wake him up. We got another 10 scenes to shoot.
I'll tell you what was one quite a stressful memory, which unfortunately this falls on Aaron a little bit,
Brilliant.
but this is where we're trying to find that forest location.
Oh.
Do you remember? And we all
Swear
turned
jar,
up
swear
to
jar.
Yeah.
in the lay-by, and there's like 4 or 5 cars, and there must be like 15 of us. And
yeah.
you go off to go and have a look first, and I think we might have all been waiting on standby for at least half an hour.
That's the worst thing,
But,
though. Is like, because we'd gone there before, and we were like, right, we know exactly where we are. But then when it comes to the day, everyone's got so many other things on their mind, and then I've like got to try and find the place. I'm like, That's where like probably someone like a location manager would come very handy because they'd know exactly where it is. So,
I mean, those are the kind of things. Those are the best things about independent films, especially. But student films, independent films, is you learn while you're doing it, and they do turn into these almost like the phrase like boy's own adventure, almost. Not the boy band, obviously.
Yeah,
But,
I was
like
gonna
yeah.
big fan of Boyzone, are you?
Well, I mean, they are one of the bands of the 90s. Let's be fair. But they turn into these sort of adventures that you can like have these funny stories about afterwards. In the moment, we were all exhausted. I've never felt so delirious in my life, really.
Yeah.
And I was always lugging that massive chest around. I mean, it's a 633 mixer, yeah. Like if you don't know, lovely listeners, it's about the size of a small cat, and yet it comes in the chest the size of a small boat. And it's just mad. Like, and you're carrying this from location to location.
Yeah.
And you can laugh about it now, but I remember back then, I didn't used to go to the gym or anything. I think I'd only quit smoking a year before. And every time we got to a location, I was like, oh, for God's sake, that stupid chest. But they did that. I would, another, this time with Toby topped it. Any chance you get to sign up for stuff like this, if it sounds fun, do it. Because the stories you get at the other end, not only do you learn things, but the stories you get at the other end are just we still talk about this. And this is what, 3 years ago?
Yeah, 3 years ago. Yeah.
And we've all gone on to work within the film industry, and we could all name drop and say the stories we worked on, but generally when we hang out, we always come back to Esther and go, wasn't that great when we did that?
Yeah.
So I think that's incredibly important when we get to all these. Dale, we kind of lurky in the shadows.
As you said you were.
Yeah. Exactly. What would be interesting now is that you came on a bit later, almost sort of like outside the bubble of the core crew, which is basically me, Jack, Aaron, and shout out to our wonderful DP, Lucy. I don't know, what was that like, kind of come in and a bit later on?
Well, yeah, so obviously I chose to do a writing project, so I was kind of available to lend an extra pair of hands to yourselves, and it was great to kind of, because I walked in maybe after a week of shooting, so I could see things were happening, but even when things weren't going perfectly, I could see, there was a cohesiveness. You got through it and you rode those rough times, and hey, I had fun doing anything you asked me to, which was quite a varied lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, do you have any particular highlights of the shoot? Because I remember, well, to your credit, and I imagine why you're doing so well at the moment, was your kind of, we need something done. Dale, do you mind just doing this? Dale, do you mind doing that? So you did end up, I mean, eventually you ended up as a DIT, a script supervisor, a runner, a lighting tech, a spark, a grip. I mean, what didn't you do on this shoot?
Well, yeah, very true. I mean, it's certainly something, and Jack can attest to this. I've taken that into the work I do now within the industry, because like if you say yes to anyone, it will pay off. It will pay off. You learn something new.
Always.
You learn something new.
That's true, absolutely. You can spend an entire evening guarding a light.
Batting the moths away.
Batting the moths away. I'm pretty sure for a lot of that time you were guarding the light, we were actually upstairs. So the light wasn't even necessary for some scenes.
I'm pretty sure. I think it came later in the evening. Like, oh, you can turn that light off, by the way. And I'm like, oh yeah, all right.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna carry on with what Dale was saying in terms of like, Dale, your attitude to work is really commendable, because I'm not going to go into it on too much detail in this episode, but me and Dale used to work for a German production company based in Newquay and Munich and Berlin. But me and Dale managed to get onto that production, and we took on jobs as well as Dale. We both had no idea what we were doing, and we took it on and hopped onto this feature. And then after those 5 weeks, that led to 7 months of work the year after. So that's just that's just one of those things. You will always you'll take loads of lessons from it, and just go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're kind of drawing to almost a sort of natural conclusion here. We've kind of referenced post-production a bit on this film, and I want to talk about it more, because that's where, especially a lot of you and me, Aaron, a lot of our conversations really took off. We really had a lot of kind of processes that I think would be really good to share. And same with you, Jack. I liked, and Dale, like the change in your roles due to post-production. But to finish off this week, let's sit round the campfire of our collective memory and share some of our favourite stories from the Esther shoot. So just jump in whenever, guys. You know.
Well, I think for me, my favourite memory is just working with our lead actor, or one of our lead actors, Will. He every day, like, he's that sort of actor that just can sense when morale's getting a bit low, and he can bring up everyone's moods. And just to have that on a day-to-day basis on such a small production like this just really helps everyone out, and especially me, because I've worked with Will 2 times before this film, and he was the same on those films, just helping us get it done. But as soon as you're like, right, let's get to it, he's back to being professional.
He's bang on it, isn't it?
But one of particular favourite moments with him was we were in the forest. And I think you weren't there, I don't think, Toby, because you were, I don't know, I think you were at a wedding or something.
Bailed for a wedding.
Yeah.
Commitment.
but we
Love that.
we
Very happy producer.
yeah.
I'll be missing for most of the weekend, okay?
But we were in the forest, and he had to basically run into the scene and not slide on his knees, but get down on his knees and cradle Esther. And he just, for some reason, I just didn't like how he was doing it. And he was like, right, hang on, lads, and just disappeared into the forest. And then a couple of minutes went by, he came sprinting in and just went, Shira! And to have that moment, like, I think me and Jack were in a bit of hysterics then, because we were just like, we couldn't get it done. But for that, it kind of broke the sort of...
The tension.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of need those moments.
Yeah, well,
You kind of need that morale boost in the times where you're really struggling, and then that sparks like even more creativity afterwards. It's funny how that works, but it's true.
you need the happy crew as well, because I remember like we had a same with Will, actually, similar thing, the bedroom scene where it was the core of us. It was us I think Dale actually was outside, but you, me, Lucy, Will, Jack. You, sorry, being Aaron in that situation. You, me, and you.
Yeah.
And there was a scene where Will had to get out of the bed and run off to look for Esther.
Yeah.
But he couldn't get out of the bed because the springs had collapsed in the middle.
Yeah.
So he couldn't actually get out. He needed some sort of feat of insane abdominal strength just to get out of bed. And while filming this, because it was such a small room, and me and Lucy were kind of crammed in a cupboard. We couldn't get out without somebody helping us out. Jack was kind of hiding behind a curtain for reasons best known to himself. And Aaron obviously had to be near the...
You don't need to go into that.
But yeah,
It's only spot available.
we got to about take 40, and we're all getting a bit stressed.
Yeah.
And it's very hot in the room. It's the middle of summer. There's the heat wave, and Will, at some point, I remember he got out, and you said you need to hit the wall and then pause, and he came out with the amazing line like, well, I'm not gonna have like a shifty to see if she's there, and then like acted it out for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. Like the idea of this like really tense scene where he's running, looking, and he kind of stopped, looked at the door, and kind of like did a few double takes, and I was like, yes, that has to go in. He was a trooper though, because not only did that, on the same shoot, he had to wear the jumper in the heat wave, the massive grey jumper in the middle of the heat wave.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's just bathed in sweat.
Yeah.
And he also smoked, I think, 1,000 cigarettes in 10 minutes.
Yeah, again, that's a similar theme within my films. Like, he's always complained about having to lie in a bed or smoke cigarettes. And in my previous films, it's the same thing. He's like, "What? Why? Why do you want me to smoke so many cigarettes?" I'm like, "It looks cool, right?" Which isn't good, because obviously smoking's bad. But for this,
There we go. No. First episode, Aaron top tip: smoking looks cool.
yeah. But like, especially for the film before this one, like, it was a very noir piece, so I needed that smoke. But for this one, I was like, he's stressed out. He's gonna have a cigarette. But yeah, he's always complained about having to smoke so much in my films.
Yeah, I remember he had to go outside at one point because he got so lightheaded.
Yeah.
I think we all did a fair amount of passive smoking just being in that room,
Yeah.
frankly.
Don't need a smoke
Yeah.
machine. Just get Will to smoke.
No,
No.
I
just
saw it at Super Kings as well. He was smoking like the
Yeah.
biggest cigarettes you could get.
Yeah. But then that's because I think I didn't. That wasn't a decision by me. He bought them and came to set with them.
It's all an excuse,
Yeah.
isn't it? Jack, have you got any highlights? Jack and Dale, sorry. Have you got any highlights for stories that bring a smile to your face in these troubling times?
I think there was a scene. It was outside the forest where we were shooting with the jib, the crane jib, leaning over the road, watching Will carry
Shady.
thingy into the forest. Shady. But with that crane shot, because obviously it's going across the road, looking into the entrance. That road, there's cars on it, right? And we didn't
There's
have...
cars on that road, right?
I don't think there's cars on that road, right? Just to spell it out for those
Jack's
that are
top
slightly
tip.
confused.
Cars go on roads.
So, cars go on roads, but basically, we didn't have anyone either side of the road or the crane to stop the traffic at the very beginning. We didn't have anyone. So when a member of the public was driving up through, we all started panicking. We thought we need to get this amazing shot in 20 seconds before, and that wouldn't even work because you're going to hear the engine sound
like
anyway.
that scene in Wayne's World. Game on. Have you seen it? Car? Game on. Yeah, car.
Well, it's like we were all there kind of feeling like we were, 30 days later, 30 hours later, 28 hours later, sorry, 30 days later.
Yeah.
Some period of time later. To do that shot in Piccadilly, they closed it down and they could only shoot it for 10 minutes every morning, at 4 a.m. And it was like we were kind of like that. We were like, but of a much smaller scale, like there's a car coming, but it's a while off. Quick, speed, go.
Yeah. We've got that small time window to cram everything in. We just didn't. It's just not the right way to go about it. That was really funny because we were really panicking.
Yeah.
I remember during that shot, I had that amazing idea that I know to really get some accurate atmos, I'll follow the camera with my boom, and then realised how high the camera was going up. I'm a tall guy, I'm sort of 6'6", like big boom pole, but I was still there, like, oh god, it's going higher. Oh god.
When will it stop?
Yeah, exactly. And then we got one good take. And I remember Lucy turning to me and going, "Boom and shot," and I was just like, right. I'm sorry, sweater. It's not happening. I'll just bottom boom.
Bottom boom.
Yeah, Jack's amazing line on the first day of the shoot. You're gonna bottom boom it. What the hell does that mean?
And that was a running theme for the rest of it. It
Yeah, it
works.
just became a thing, didn't it? Well, it's true because you would then turn to me and go bottom boom, and I'd be like, yeah, bottom boom,
Bottom
and then get into a
Bottom
squat.
I remember there was another use for that boom pole when you two were sitting on a sofa pretending you're on a roller coaster. I was stressing out and you two were just having a whale of a time, and I was like, I couldn't not laugh because I didn't want to come across like a dick, but it was funny, but I was so stressed in that time, but you two were just hilarious.
I think this is the thing, is that me and Jack, I think it's safe to say, Jack, we've got quite silly senses of humour. And
Yeah.
so putting us together for about a week by that point, the normal jokes had gone and just reality was a blur at this point, so...
And you've got all these runners and people we're bringing on from the years below, and they're like, what the f*** are these two?
Sweater! There we go, this is a sweary episode, boys. But yeah, no, because we had the first years, and they're like, oh wow, these are master students. Yeah, I'm really going to learn from them. They turn around and you and me have got the boom pole across our laps, going. Amazing, Dale. What stands out for you as a highlight, if you have any?
Well, I mean, obviously, I was not always there, only when I was needed. But I do recall a time where we had an older couple walking in the back of shot, and it was a case of everyone's looking at each other like, who's going to do it? And it was like, Jack, you're the producer, go on.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, it's interesting because it's Jack, so he's like, yeah, all right, whatever, all right, I don't want to do it, but I'll do it. But it's interesting to look back at, now, it wouldn't think twice about it. It is what it is. But back then, it's just a reminder of how far we've come, and
Yeah.
It's like, as long as you have fun at the start, just continue to remember it's there because you want to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
And it's just, yeah. I look back on it and it makes me laugh.
Yeah, you should. I mean, and that I think is a really good way to round out this episode. Is really, and this is really important, especially from my own personal experience. And we'll get onto this. We'll talk more about it. It's like the kind of gambling adverts when the fun stops. Make sure you're still having fun, because it's such a fun industry and it's such a fun job. And sometimes it doesn't feel like a job. You got to make sure it's still there. You know,
Yeah, like
always make sure you have fun.
like I was talking to I think it was our makeup artist during production, and she was like, "How are you finding it?" And I'm like, "It's stressful and it's time consuming. It's very daunting, but it's fun at the end of the day, and it's like a good fun." And like as long as you get productions that are obviously fun and productive, obviously, but having that fun part is fundamental to make everyone push forward and keep the morale going.
Yeah,
100%. I agree.
Absolutely. Well, there you go. I hope you've enjoyed this first episode of a Film Slate of Mind. We will be back to keep doing this. Next time we are doing post-production of Esther, and then our beginning and our rolling on into the next stage of our burgeoning careers. So, from me, Toby, it's a goodbye. From Aaron, it's a
Goodbye.
Jack, what have you got?
See ya.
Dale, round us out, please.
Cheers and gone.
And goodbye. Take it sleazy. Yeah, we're done, boys. Right, see you later.
Yeah.
This podcast is available on many providers such as Google and Spotify. If you'd like to email us, our address is filmslateofmind@hotmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram @filmslateofmind, where you can keep up to date with us for details about our latest episodes and uploads to YouTube. Music provided by Epidemic Sound, podcast edited by the friendly neighbourhood soundy, CC himself, Toby Cook.